Thank you, Mark. It's great to be here, back again. Not only leading, but as a regular attendee. It's been a major part of my spiritual practice during this time of COVID. I'm grateful to IJS for all they're doing to support us all. So, during shelter in place, many of us have watched a lot more movies than usual. And this is really true for me. I'm not such a big movie watcher, as my husband can attest, but after enough months of shelter in place, certainly I also am racking up those movies. So I wanted to bring one particular film into our practice today that really impacted me. It's a documentary called My Octopus Teacher. So perhaps there's some of you out there who've seen it. It's really an amazing film. So in the film, there's a man named Craig who swims every day off the coast of South Africa. And each day he goes to the same place. It's a specific kelp forest in which he seeks out one particular wild octopus. And why was he doing this? He decided to kind of engage in this practice because he was at a point in his life where he recognized that his life, his soul, and his relationships with other human beings was really in need of repair. And so he adopted this practice of going swimming down there each day. And he did this for several years as a way to explore his own spiritual healing, I would say. And so the encounters with this octopus, whom he, I guess, befriended, I guess is an appropriate way of saying it, helped him feel that he was part of something larger. And the film focuses on his journey and what he learned. But as I watched this film, I thought about the concept that we have in Jewish tradition of keva and kavanah. So keva is the fixed nature of our spiritual practice, but kavanah is the intent that we bring to it afresh. And of course, in Jewish tradition, these two concepts are in constant tension with each other, because once we fix something, it can become staid and not fresh. But yet, if we only approach things when we're motivated or when we're feeling inspired, it's pretty difficult to sustain any type of consistent spiritual practice. So for Craig in the movie, the kelp forest was his keva, right? He went to the same spot every day, even when he thought to himself, am I going to see her? He was called the octopus, her. Am I going to learn something new from her? And what if I don't? What if I just go back to the same place and if it's a giant fail? These aren't his words, but these are my feelings when I'm looking at what he did and the courage it took for him to go back to that same place every day and not know. He could have asked himself, what if it's boring and there's nothing, no activity of any interaction with her, which he began to really crave and want to be such a big part of his life. Or that if it's an uninspiring dive that day. But yet he did it. He went down to that same place every day and came to know it very intimately and came to know things, of course, about this octopus that he never dreamed of being able to encounter in such an amazing way. So Adi, if you can screen share, I want to share a couple of texts with you about this idea and the tension that we find in Jewish tradition and what we can learn from it today in our practice of keva and kavanah. So as that text is coming up, just give me a thumbs up if you can see it. There we go. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel wrote this text about the fixed nature of prayer. And although he wrote it about prayer, I want to adapt it or bring it into our practice and kind of swap out, as it were, meditation for prayer. So he says, how grateful I am to God that there is a duty to remind my distraught mind that it's time to think of God, time to disregard my ego for at least a moment. And again, we can kind of think about what that means to have a time to disregard our ego, or set it aside, nothing to fix, as someone put in the quote in the chat box today, to set that aside in meditation. He goes on, I'm not always in a mood to pray, I might add, or to meditate. I don't always have the vision, he says, and the strength. But when I'm weak, it is the law. And here I'm going to take law, I'm going to pivot that into this concept of keva. Law is something that is fixed, that holds us, that gives us structure and strength. So it's keva. It's coming back to that kelp forest again and again, the same place, the same practice that gives me strength. And when my vision is dim, Heschel says, it's duty, it's that commitment to the fixed nature of our practice, keva, that gives me insight. And Adi, if you can scroll down a little bit to this next text, because now we have just a very short text from the Baal Shem Tov that's going to tell us, of course, the other tension, the other concept that's in tension, right? Or the reason a person merits that supernal things were revealed, celestial things, out of body things, things that are beyond perhaps our physical or mental grasp, right? When we come into that place where we can see or grasp those things, it's because a person prays with great intention, kavanah gedolah. Wow, that can be just a little bit intimidating, right? Are we only going to achieve it if we have this great and kind of extraordinary kavanah? Well, in some places, the keva can save us from that, right? That despair or concern that we might not cut it in the kavanah category. And so just as Craig went down to that kelp forest every day, we, some of us fix the location and fix the practice that we do each day. And for some of us, it might be our first time ever doing this today in this sit. And others may do it every day. And some of us are kind of in between, right? But wherever we are on the spectrum, the fact is we made it here. We are here in this cyberspace together, and we're immersing in the kelp forest, as it were, of meditation. It's a sign of our curiosity that we're here today, and a commitment or an exploration of a commitment to keva. And what will we discover? We don't know. But we do know that the more that we can fix our spiritual container, in today's case, a time for meditation, the more likely that we are to apply kavanah, to fix an intent, to set a devotion through stopping. And that is really an important part of ongoing meditation practice, or even for people who are here the first time today. And I also want to share another quote, if we scroll down a D, from Rabbi Alan Liu, and this is from his incredible book, Be Still and Get Going. He says, every day of our lives, we saturate the base of our being. I just love that. We saturate the base of our being, the breath and the body, with awareness. We saturate the base of our being with our keva, with our kavanah, and with our breath. So one more metaphor inspired by my octopus teacher. Tomorrow night, we will begin the holiday of Tu B'Shvat, the New Year of the Trees. And where would our trees be without water? Without the saturation of water, the kelp forest that Craig experienced would not exist. Without the saturation of water, trees wouldn't live on land. And so we, like Craig and the wild octopus, immerse in the water of keva, the water of Torah. There are hundreds of comparisons of water to Torah, of water to the potential of awareness in the Jewish tradition. We need it to live, just like the trees do. And we can think of our meditation today as the water that nourishes our tree, that is our body and our soul. And so we bring this kavanah that I want to share. Adi, if you scroll down, from Rabbi Sheila Peltz Weinberg, our great teacher. And this is a kavanah that she wrote on Psalm 92, which is the psalm for Shabbat. And so we're going to bring this kavanah into our kava, into our practice, as we approach Tu B'Shvat, the new year of the trees this week. And she says, a student of the way things are unfolding, grows flexible like a palm tree, flourishes like a cedar, and is as amazing as a redwood. Planted in the divine soil, ever nourished by roots tapping supreme goodness. Even in old age, she will thrive and see things fresh and new. She will keep declaring the possibility of liberation from suffering. She is rock solid in the ever-flowing universe. So just like Craig, we swim in the kelp forest every day. And that's how he discovered he was a part of something bigger than himself. And so too, we immerse ourselves in the water. We settle in our seats, finding a place that is both dignified and as relaxed as our body can permit us to be at this moment in time. And we enter into our kava, into our practice with a kavanah to be rock solid in this ever-flowing universe. as we prepare to ascend from the kelp forest back out toward the open sky, our lives stretching before us on this day. Grateful for the opportunity to discover what it is to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. Grateful for immersing in the kava, in the steadiness of the water. Maybe for some of us, it was the turbulence of the water. Coming up for air and breath. Planted in the divine soil, ever nourished by roots tapping supreme goodness. Even in old age, she will thrive and see things fresh and new. She is rock solid in the ever-flowing universe.
Thank you so much, Susan, for taking us down there. Friends, I know people often drop off. There are people who drop off at this point before we say Kaddish, but I do want to encourage people to stay on if you can, recognizing the power of what Rabbi Leiter just was speaking about of Keva. We have a fixed practice of including Kaddish, and that's a practice really for all of us, whether you are reciting Kaddish because you have a recent loss, or if you have a yahrzeit you're observing, or if it's your practice to engage in reciting Kaddish. It's a fixed practice for all of us to infuse with kavanah, as Susan beautifully taught. So I want to invite those of you who are in mourning to share, if you'd like, in the chat box the name or names of those whose memory you're honoring today, the souls you're holding in your heart today, and those who the rest of us can provide the kavanah of offering chesed, offering loving connection, of support and being with and upholding those who are in the pain of loss at this time, both those who are here with us right now and those who are grieving losses around the world right now, whether due to the pandemic or otherwise. And invite those who are in mourning to rise in body or in spirit to join me in Kaddish. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shemerabah, Bi'amad, Ivra, Chirute, Bi'amlich, Malchute, B'chayechon, V'mechon, B'chaye, Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agalah, Man Karib, Nimru, Amen.
Shmei
Shmei
Rabba
Rabba,
Barak,
Barak,
Maya.
Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitba'ar, Yitraman, V'yitnaseh, Yitzhadar, Yitvared, Yitzchal, Shemei V'yitnaseh.
Adar
Ela min
Kalev
kol
Talashkev
birchata
Tishnavi,
v'shirata,
Ela min kol
Ata
Birchata
v'chata,
V'shirata, Mishpachata
Amiram
B'Nama,
b'ama v'nama.
Iran B'Ama
Hey
B'Ama,
Shlama Rabba
Hey
Yishmael,
Shlama Rabba
V'chaim
Min
Aleinu,
Shemayim,
Kol
Chaim Aleinu
Yisrael,
V'Akol Yisrael
Amen.
V'Imru, Yaseh Shalom
B'mama,
V'Yaseh
V'yaseh
Shalom
Shalom,
Aleinu V'Akol
Aleinu,
Yisrael, V'Akol Yoshvei
Yisrael.
Tevel V'Imru.
Kol Yoshvei Tevel, V'imru.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you to Rabbi Susan Leiter for leading us so beautifully in practice today. Thanks to all of you for showing up, for being here, for your keva, and carving out and dedicating this time, whether you feel like it or not, on a particular day, to just show up and see what happens, which is something we'll pick up. I'd like to pick up in a few moments. For those of you who are able, would like to stay on, you're welcome to, for some conversation with Rabbi Leiter about the practice today. And thanks to Adi Stein for holding our Mishkan, our tech container, so beautifully today. And thank you to Rachel Wall for sponsoring today's practice in honor of IJS, its staff and teachers, for offering the programs that we're able to offer because of you. So thanks to all of you. We are back tomorrow with Rabbi Lauren Tuckman, who will be leading us for the first time. Very much looking forward to that. We have just a wonderful week of practice with Rabbi Jenny Solomon on Thursday, and on Friday with Cantor Kareth Spencer Shapiro. So please do join us for any or all of those meditations Wednesday through Friday for the rest of this week. And for everyone, be safe and well, and many blessings for the rest of the day until we see you again. Okay, right, Susan, you had mentioned you only can stay on for a few, so you just let me know when you got to cut out. Hold on a sec. Here we go. Now we're, oh.
I'm grateful to be able to be here today and headed to another meeting shortly, but present for a few more moments and grateful to be so.
So Susan, I like to extract and kind of just like underline or highlight with a yellow highlighter, like, the main point here, one of which was so important, and I don't think we touch on it enough, is what I kind of just mentioned a moment ago about this idea of like, what's the function of the keva? I mean, I'm sure many of us, there were days when, we really find these sets very meaningful and we're in the flow and things are on. And there are other days where nothing's happening, mind's racing, not feeling it, no, in the terms that you were offering, no kavana. So I wanted to just, give you a moment. I know you have to go, but maybe if you want to elaborate on that, about how that plays out for you, like your experience of, when you're not feeling it, how keva works for you.
So as I'm seeing the comments in the chat, the movie again is My Octopus Teacher. And it was recommended to me by Max Perkoff. And so grateful that I got to see that with my husband. So, Mark, I think it's really interesting to think about the resistance, my resistance to keva, and we can phrase it in IGS meditation terms of what we're doing every Monday through Friday, at this time. When the great thing about these IGS meditations is you tune in, you don't know who's leading, you don't know what it's going to be like. Is the meditation going to be guided? Is it going to be a body scan? Is it going to be silent? Is there going to be music? Are there going to be instruments? You don't know. And so for me, part of the keva is what happens when I'm in that container and there's something unexpected that I didn't want, that I didn't ask for, that I didn't needed. And I think the beauty of this is because we have all these different teachers teaching in different modalities and such great respect for all these different approaches, that one reaction to the keva is something comes up, either outside stimuli, as I've cited here, and of course we're well familiar with the inside stimuli that can come up during keva. So for me, I think it's just being open to not leaving the sit because someone's leading in a way that doesn't, just letting yourself open up to that and happens, because we don't know.
That's another, thank you for mentioning that too. It's really true. It's really true. As you're saying that, I'm noticing like my own resistance saying, oh no, this is a problem. Which I know it isn't, but it is. It is a problem because, there's almost always going to be a different way of teaching that a certain number of people who are here just are not going to resonate with. That's not going to work. And so it is a practice. I'm really glad that you're naming that, a practice of noticing the inclination to close off. I don't like this. This is unpleasant, right? It's not what I like, not my flavor. And to open up and to see what happens. And I think, at least for me, because I have no choice, I have to be here. I can't turn the TV off. I have to be here. It does actually work. There are many times when that does happen. And when they're like, oh, this is not what I'm looking for. And then I stay, because I have to stay with it. It's keva for me. Say, wow, I didn't notice that. I didn't expect that to happen. And it is about being open in some way. And the other thing is about honoring I think what, you also talked about this, like noticing the resistance and honoring the resistance to it. Like the quote that you had from, let's see if I bring it up for a sec, the Heschel quote. So many. These were great. This was like a one-page gem after gem here. But the ego, the role of the ego. Okay, I'm not always in a mood to pray or meditate. I definitely am often not in the mood.
Right.
I'm not in the mood. Sorry. And then I'm grateful for the keva, for the thing that makes me show up. Question, I'll get back to that question of what does resistance mean. But there's something about being in the discomfort long enough for it to melt away, and then something comes up, like that. Of course, I am definitely going to go see this movie now. Going back to
Or
that kelp forest.
sometimes it doesn't melt away that day, right? And you have to come back over days or weeks, or, and it's a process that goes well beyond the one sit.
Right.
So Mark, I hope this
Okay.
conversation continues. I'm sorry that I have
No,
to
don't be sorry. That's fine. Thank you for, these congregational rabbis who make time to lead us. Just so grateful, because I know what your life is like. And thank you especially these days. So thank you so much, Susan, for being for your emunah, for your devotion to showing up for this, for yourself. It's really moving. And your devotion to, the teaching that you've offered us over these months too. Thank you so much.
Thank
So
you.
we'll let you go. I'm happy to stay on for a couple more minutes, and I'll look at the comments. And happy to speak for Rabbi Susan Leiter here. There was a question about resistance. I think Deborah raised that question. I use that term about, in this practice, I think a lot of what we are trying to do is learning ourselves simply to notice when we feel uncomfortable, when we don't like something, or it feels unpleasant, or it doesn't accord with our will. And our inclination in those situations in general, our reaction is a fight or flight response. Like for me, usually flight, look for a distraction, go somewhere else, do something different, think of something different, alleviate the discomfort in whatever way. And part of what we're doing very, very gently is we're in training to notice that, to be with it, to not judge ourselves for having that discomfort, and even to whatever extent we're able to welcome it to a degree, to welcome it so that with the recognition that it's not going to go away of its own accord, but if we let it pass through us, back to, of course, Rumi's guest house poem, which encourages us to invite in every thought, every feeling. I'll share, by the way, that I mentioned it's snowing in New York City, and I'm getting to watch snowflakes falling outside my window against the backdrop of a brick wall in the air shaft. And it enabled me to use that as part of the practice to kind of imagine each snowflake as one of my thoughts or one of my feelings. And, some of them are floating around and staying in my vision for a little while, and some of them are falling right down, and some of them seem to be, I think they're falling, and then the gust of wind kind of lifts them up, and so they stick around. They stick around sometimes. Right. Thank you, Julie Cole. The challenge is to bring compassion instead of struggling with resistance. I noticed today, I experimented with, and I would encourage you also in these sits. Many of our teachers do encourage people at some point to put your hand on your chest, over your heart space, and to notice the difference, how that shifts things. And I noticed for me, there's a big difference, that there's an auto kind of a body response to that, that is both sometimes uncomfortable, like how long do I have to do this? And at the same time, it's comforting. It's a physical expression of compassion for whatever's going on inside my body that soothes the nervous system and enables me to tolerate something that might be otherwise difficult to tolerate. So I wanted to just throw that out as yet another tool we've got. And yeah, I notice with no blame and no shame that when we get to Kaddish, there are always a good number of people who drop off, and of course, people have to carry on with their lives. But I have thought for a while of wanting to catch people before they do that and encourage them to consider staying in. I realized like when we're in person, it's a lot less likely for people to leave the room when it's time for Kaddish. But online, it's a lot easier to do that. But it's really important, I think, for us to be cognizant of our responsibility for each other and to show up, to be present for each other for Kaddish. What will the IJS daily sit be like in the herd immunity period? Well, we will find out, Mark. I don't know. We just do not know. Let's see. Just scrolling through here. I think Adi put the text for the sheet in. And yeah. So just a reminder, by the way, about recordings. We had some technical issues today streaming to Facebook, but the recording of Rabbi Leiter's teaching will be it has been recorded, and we will upload it to Facebook, so it will be there along with all the other recordings of previous meditations. So let us end our keva here, our fixed practice here, and invite you to think about what kavanah, what intention has come up for you over the last 45 minutes that you want to bring into the rest of your life, or just to consider what is fixed in your life. What are the appointments you have left in the rest of your day that you're going to show up for and infuse, and in the words of Rabbi Alan Liu that was shared by Rabbi Leiter today, to saturate the base of our being, our breath and our body with awareness, and to carry that awareness through the rest of our day. So it's a great privilege to get to do that with each of you. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow with Rabbi Lauren Tuckman. Okay. Be well, everyone. Many blessings.